OpenAI-Realtime-API. My partner in crime on this project I'm going to talk to you about is, his name is Ian Weissnick. He's not able to make it tonight. But I also brought a picture of my grandmother, and she was about 90 years old at this time with her sister. And I sat her down for an interview, this was about 10 years ago, to just sit down and ask her questions about her early life, and I happened to record it. I'm grateful that I did. And how many people have interviewed their elders like this? Great, thank God for that, right? Like, it's such a grateful thing to have. And if you, for those of you who have done it, you know that like there's great wisdom there, and it's just fascinating and interesting to talk to people who lived 50 or maybe almost 100 years ago. Like, it's fascinating. It's also a little bit meandering, and the bits of wisdom are kind of intersected by like tangents that are not as interesting. So it's kind of tough, to be honest, and it's tough for them. Our elders often don't know that we're even interested in some of the things they tell us and when we get into the conversation. So it's really fun, but it's a little bit tough. So Ian came to me a couple months ago, and he had just interviewed his parents and had great insights, but he also took these interviews and really struggled to kind of collate them into something that the rest of his family would actually sit through and be engaging for. And since he's a UX researcher, this was interesting for me because this is what he does for a living, right? So we decided we were going to try to do something about it with AI. And we're building something called Tayle, and I'm going to show it to you, and we'll see if it works here. So this is giving me some prompts here about a story I can tell about myself, and I chose my first car.
Can you tell me about your first car?
I hope y'all can hear that here close.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Great. Yeah, I'll tell you about my car. My first car was a 1984 Chevrolet Chevette.
Fantastic. I'm 19.
No, it wasn't that fantastic, actually. It was rusty, and it had a giant hole in the muffler, so it was really loud.
It sounds like it had its challenges.
Well, I took 15-inch subwoofers and piled them in the back with an amplifier and rattled the windows of the houses and everyone else that was around.
It sounds like you made the best of the situation.
So this is kind of the experience for an interview, and the idea here was, if you've interviewed your elders, like there's some other services we looked into, they like send you an email and say like write an email. Like, I don't know that I could write an email like this answering a question, let alone someone who's maybe 60 or older trying to do something like this. So we were really excited about using voice for this. So we do the interview, we collect this information, and then we try to turn it into something interesting. So what we did, oh no, it's working, and it's on my screen, I promise.
It's not just a second ago.
Let's see. Does anyone see my phone, fat boy?
Is that?
So I'm not a camera.
Oh, see, it's connected.
You call your phone
Oh, great idea. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool.
Start doing your taxes. Oh, wait, you can hold it up so it's there. Okay.
Yeah, all right. So you can see. So what we do is we're using the OpenAI-Realtime-API with WebRTC. And if you haven't used WebRTC, it's super fun. Like, it's a great API in the browsers for streaming media, video and audio, and it's amazing. Like, there's issues and people complain about noise cancellation, and they're true, but overall it's amazing API and really awesome. So we hook this up with the OpenAI-Realtime-API, and then we do the interview that way, and then on the back end, we're processing this interview with a set of LLMs, and you can see that it wrote a story. I didn't I guess I'm loud enough. No one complained. This isn't a very long story, so it's not very engaging here. But you can see like it came up with a funny title, and it does write like an engaging story the more you talk to it. And you can go and amend and kind of clarify things, and it'll fix it up and rewrite the story for people. And people love it. People have a lot of fun with this. So, and then a little bit more about some of the challenges that we faced. Anybody use the OpenAI Real-Time-API before? Like people use it? Yeah, super fun API. So I've switched here to a demo of an open source project we've released that we built up, kind of taking code out of Tayle and putting it here. And I'm gonna go ahead and play this demo in my browser on my desktop now. And I think she'll talk to me, she'll hear me, I think, in a minute. And as I'm talking and as she starts to respond and she's detecting interruptions, you can see here that it's like streaming all these events in here. So the real-time API just constantly pushes all these events to you about what's going on. And it's great because you can create this really interactive UI, which we want. We need to give people feedback. Voice is a great way we found to engage people, but they need feedback. They don't even know what's going on. It's not a typical experience. So you have to give them a lot of feedback, and we're able to do that. The challenge is you don't have any kind of state of the conversation here. What you get from API is just a stream of events. And they come in with, I'll stop this, and we'll find like some of these delta events, which are really interesting. So it comes in, you can see like as it's transcribing, it's sending you like one word at a time in these events, and it gives you some indexes and IDs, and you have to kind of patch it up into to a state from the prior events. So we did all this in TypeScript, and we kind of extracted this out into an SDK that takes that same UI you saw in Tayle and assembles all that state for you, and it's all strongly typed and blah, 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 all this stuff. But it's pretty cool, and it solves some of those hurdles. Some of the other problems we've run into, the models, like right now we've got this one, like looking at the browser, and we tell it what language to use. For some reason, OpenAI thinks I speak Spanish quite frequently. I don't know, like sometimes you'll tap on something or a low sound, it'll start speaking Chinese, I think. And so those are some interesting things we ran into. We've lost voice. Sometimes the real-time model decides you want text. Like if you send it a bunch of commands in text, it'll just decide that like, oh, you don't want to do voice anymore, and just start speaking in text. So that's another thing you have to be really conscious of and careful about when you're dealing with that model. And the motion, which we're still working on. You saw usually she thinks my 1984 Chevrolet Chevette is a classic. Oh wow, it's not, no one else on earth would describe it that way. So we're still working through a lot of like the emotion and how she talks about things. But you can see I say she, and I can't stop doing that because it's a pretty cool experience. So it's pretty fun to play. And yeah, so if you want to check it out, you guys can all try it. Guys and gals can all try it. We'd love it. There's an in-app feedback survey. So if she gets too excited about something and you thought it was kind of laughably ridiculous, like leave some feedback and let us know how we can fix it. We'd love to. And the SDK is linked from our site to tayle.co. Yeah, questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
How are you kind of chunking out when it's done, or you're done speaking at a request? Are you just letting OpenAI handle that?
Right now we are, yeah. We played with some different things, and it's not always perfect. Noise makes a big difference. That's where OpenAI really starts to fall apart. But it depends, and that depends on the device. So test in Firefox. Firefox has great WebRTC support, but the noise cancellation is not very good. So if you get it tuned and working pretty well in Firefox, I found when we go to other devices, like a friend will pick up their phone and I'm like, oh gosh, it's noisy in here, and it works really good on their phone because I'm not using Firefox.
How about if you have extra information, for example, 20 hours of audio tape, can you also preload the model before the interview?
You could. We've done a little bit of that. It's slow and expensive. So I would say it's probably better. There's great speech-to-text models out there. And
Yeah.
The approach that I'm taking now when I want to do things like that is I transcribe it first, and then put that, and then just use the text really to do further analysis on it. That works and it's pretty good. Maybe it could be better, but we're pretty scrappy and it works pretty good.
Would you let it ask the questions to get better memories for people? or do you come up with those by hand?
A little bit of both. Like we give it a bunch of questions and it writes. I mean, the interview is all it really. Like we give it a bunch of examples of things it could ask, and we tell it. Like in the case of Tayle, we've learned to tell it like emphasize like places and people. Like ask clarifying questions about these type of things, and that makes a big difference. Like give it some guidance on what types of questions to ask. It makes a big difference. But if I show you our prompt, you'll see like most of the prompt is like, don't say it's amazing. Like stop saying it. Like, tone it down. Like the real-time model is like very excited about everything. Yeah.
For real-time API, have you tried with the TTI style model, like more traditional way?
Yeah, we have. That could totally work. It might be better. Our experience with the real-time APIs, there's probably a better model for everything it does. And there's definitely cheaper models for everything it does, but it's pretty good. Like it's super low latency and it's really great dev experience. Like it's just super easy to get rolling and make stuff happen. So honestly, as much as I want to go try all these other things we kind of tinker with on the side, it's going to be really hard to get away with. I think OpenAI is like, their secret sauce is their dev experience more than anything else. Like they just put it together pretty darn good.
Are you using for all real time or for mini real time?
We change it all the time. I like Grok a lot. Grok's just super cheap and fast, and it does really great with long. So that's I think what we're doing today.
Scott,
Yeah.
have you tried this with older people, and do they get into a conversational mode like they're talking to a
Yeah.
real human interviewer?
Another great question. We have. We do it. It's like friends and family now, but we do, and our older people send it to their friends, and their friends start using it. And so that's a pretty good sign early on. And they like ask questions. They get scared usually when it starts talking to them. Like I sit on the phone with them and watch, and they like click the buttons, and they're like, I want to start. And then they go, whoa! And then they start talking to it, and it just goes, like it flows. So I think the experience is really important here, but in general, voice is it. I'm a big leader.
Okay, Bilal, do you want to start getting up and getting